Yeah, 316. Got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, tight and birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position you can live in if you have some things in the air. If you got game, wake up like you just don't care. If you got game, playing like you got no fit, and you got game. If you came here to win, yeah, you got game.
Welcome to the rBeatz studio, here for local music somewhere, where we go to various music areas, music scenes around the country, and we either find artists that are aspiring and rising from those areas, or established national performers or personnel as well that are based in those areas. Today we're going to be going into New York City, and my guest on the program from New York City, from that area, the Big Apple, is Andrew Kay. Andrew Kay is an operatic tenor who I've known for a while. He's an amazing performer, gets to perform at some incredible venues. He's also the CEO of Big Sound Productions. He's a re-recording mixer. We'll talk about what that is a little bit later in the program. And he works on some incredible projects. But welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you, Terry. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's so great to see you. It's been a while since I've seen you in person.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, the time that I saw you in person was actually a couple years ago. You were at my wedding, and you ended up as a you. I don't know if you have to do this in your job, or you're the last minute fill in, but the person that was supposed to walk my wife down the aisle was stuck in traffic about an hour or 2 hours away from the venue, and you stepped in last minute and walked her up the aisle for me. So that was pretty incredible. What was I would say it was incredible, but that day I remember the preacher was an extremely good-looking guy, and here you come in looking like a model, and I'm like the least attractive guy at my wedding, standing up waiting for this to all get started. But just once again, thank you for doing all of that. But you have so much that you're doing. You're an incredibly talented singer. Before we even get into what you're doing, you have an incredibly talented family. So tell us a little bit about your family, and then we'll roll into what you do.
Oh yeah, like you were talking about the wedding, and I was thinking, it's like, none of those things happen. They're all a whole through line of serendipity that goes on, that is very present in my life, and I'm sure when people start to hear some of these stories, they'll start linking in things in their life that's the same way. But I started a musical journey because my mother was a choir director, and my grandfather before her, just back in Ohio. And it was like people came to the house and they'd be rehearsing, and you thought as a kid that this was just normal, that everybody in the United States just had people over all the time, getting music ready, doing things around the piano. Because for us, it was pretty standard. So going into music and loving music and hearing a lot of awesome music and beautiful music that gets you kind of like, inspired, becomes like your friend along the way, and it reminds you of everybody you've been doing it with. So, pretty much everywhere you go after that, whoever you bump into, if they're doing music, you could just hop right in. It's like you realize, people from different countries, places. Every time you go someplace, you'll bump into somebody, and music will be a common thread. It's quite amazing. But
the things that happen around you, the way you grow up, the support system, but just the fact of being around it, I found that to be a common thread with guests that are on. I've never thought that was by accident.
Not really. It's not like everything unfolds at once, though.
Right.
It's like little pieces, trailings, and one thing will pop up 10 years later that you used to know, and it happened to be the thing that someone needs.
No,
piece of music.
You're right. It reminds me of that movie Slumdog Millionaire. It's kind of the same thing. Like all these things happen, and then they're there when you need it. Like your brain pulls them up and reminds you, oh, this happened, and you're going to be able to use this right here.
Yeah, it's if you go back to your wedding, it's the same thing. When we came down to Charlotte, when I'd first met your wife, she kind of came in, stayed with our family in our home, and
Correct.
got used to the United States and all that. And we all hit it off, and she kind of became kind of what we call our kind of daughter, and like our goddaughter. And because she was single at the time, she was trying to find her way, and she was in our household, got through many turns and many flips and flops, and many accomplishments, found you. And but you can't even explain like why that day that I was there, that they could call on me to walk her down the aisle, because I was kind of her, kind of god dad.
Yeah.
And when Scott, the guy that was going to walk her down the aisle, said that he was busy in traffic, I had actually got ordained to do marriages for like 4 years ago or something. It was completely ready to do something like that on the fly and be able to like be comfortable in that setting. But I would have never guessed that I would have been able to walk her down the aisle or anything like that, unless some of those initial things got put into place.
And they play into everything, and it's going to play, I know, into the story that this is going to be one of those episodes that's like a movie. It's going to unfold as we go here, as we know. So I know your wife works with you, and you have how many children do you have that perform?
Well, let's see. Everybody's an artist in their own way. My daughter is my oldest, is Emma. She's 29. She's got a beautiful soprano singing voice. She's always been, coloratura, singing the really high notes and doing little things around the house ever since she was very young, and has always been singing in things and comfortable with things. But her biggest role is playing mom, and she takes that music into the house and does the thing that she does. And Jordan, my middle son, is 26, and he is an artist, like a visual artist. He likes to work with artisanship and building things and cabinetry, and he is a painter, and he literally paints, with oil and with acrylic and with mixed medium, and always creativity going on in some way in the house. And my youngest, Logan, is 16, and he is at LaGuardia right now for voice, and he just wrapped up doing Into the Woods, and he was Cinderella's prince there.
I love that production. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they killed it too. LaGuardia. The director is directly on Broadway right now with his own play called The Job, and they're hiring Broadway directors to direct these children's plays, and it's amazing. The cast is extremely healthy, and they just kicked it out of the park. I think the choreographer was also a Broadway choreographer that is directly on Broadway right now. So it's amazing. The kids are getting like the creme de la creme and great prep, to be doing their next steps. And he was just through the moon. No cattiness, no weirdness, just like complete health at that school. Great stuff.
And he got
my wife,
perform
Kara,
at some major venues too. I saw that he made a debut somewhere. I was watching video.
Oh yeah. He performed at Carnegie Hall with Cyril Chestnut and the Cecilia Chorus, which is Juilliard's chorus, and they did a big night of like gospel and jazz and big orchestral mixing pieces with lots of choral work, big stuff, really, really beautiful, expressive music. And that was his first Carnegie experience. And he's actually performing with me right now. We're rehearsing for Brahms' Requiem, the German Requiem, and another piece, The World Called, by Hellstork. And we're getting that thing ready, and that's going to go up in May, and we're going to be doing a Carnegie Hall performance together, father and son. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
You can't make this stuff up, folks. It doesn't just happen. But it's like a bunch of little weird, I don't know. Yeah, my I can get into my goddaughter too, but first I have to talk about my wife, because she's there's the wiener dog I was talking about. Hey, Sophie.
You're not the first one to have
Hold on a second.
a wiener dog on the show.
There you go. But my wife, she's a beautiful soprano. She's an excellent actress. She is an actor that you must contend with if you were on stage with her. She's so on it. I performed with her in several things. I was Ernest in Much Ado, or The Importance of Being Earnest, and also Claudio, while she was Hero in Much Ado About Nothing, in some equity performances of those. And playing next to her, man, she's intense. She's so excellent at her stage presence and her physical performance. She's a great dancer and just so intuitive with her lines and her storytelling. She's amazing. Needless to say, I thought, man, she'd make a great wife. And so,
well, when I was getting into this and I was working with pop artists, I was surprised to see that some of the pop artists. There's one I can think of. She was a I would almost call her a child prodigy. I mean, she was 11 years old. She sounded like Christina Aguilera to me. I mean, she was just killing it at that age. And of course, she had a great pop career. She's had platinum albums, but now I see that she's lead on Broadway. And then you have Nicole from Pussycat Dolls that's on the reality shows. That she's one of the leads in a Broadway play now. It's an avenue that I wouldn't have even expected for artists like that, and it's worked out pretty well as far as a mesh. But they would not be able to do that without the people that are there, that understand that system and guide them through it. But it's a pretty great system for that.
That's right. You end up, as the artist, you end up over time just more and more realizing, what's going on behind the scenes about how everything has to work. It's like all the pieces have to fit. When you think you're getting ready to go sing the solo or do whatever, there's everyone else is running around doing a zillion other details. So when I came up, I wanted to learn everything. It's like behind the scenes, how to do the computer, the new tech that's coming, anything, grab it so that you can, I was like, if I'm going to open a company and I'm going to ask people to do things for me, I should at least have walked in their shoes and try to figure out how to do, rendering, editing, any of that stuff, just so you can, be a good manager and understand timings and really understand what everybody's got to go through. So
and
that,
I tell artists that too. And it's because as an artist, period, when you grow, you're going to be hiring people. In order to hire the right people, you're going to have to know something about what it is that they do to build a right team. And of course, you've done that. I mean, you've learned the stuff that you've learned, and you've grown it into a great career. What is it? What are some of the things that you're doing right now as far as you in your vocals? Your career as a vocalist. Let's cover that first.
Well, I do. Out of the company, we produce for community and for kind of international prosperity and or posterity, I guess you would say, and fun. I produce a band called the Bavarian Kings, and we do Oktoberfest celebrations for people, because when I grew up in Ohio, unlike the East Coast where it is now, when you choose your languages on the East Coast, it's usually Spanish, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Latin, maybe French, but largest influence is Spanish, because that's everybody, the second language that's going to be around here is all Spanish. But where I grew up, you're in between Canada and Amish country, so the two choices were French and German, and I have English background in my family, and then I have German background in my family, but I didn't really know how deep or anything specific about it, because again, we were like 7 generations, the same Willard family in Ohio. But my aunt and my first cousin, they were in Germany when my first cousin was born. And then when she came back at my aunt's house, they'd have some of the German Christmas traditions and little things. And then at my mom and dad's house would be like English traditions. So a lot of those traditions involve a lot of songs and a lot of parlor stuff in both areas. But I opened because we met a German. It had nothing really to do with that, but I was speaking German fairly well by the time I got into, just randomly just know how to speak German. But I also learned a bunch of other languages just because I studied classical voice. So, I speak a little Italian, a little Spanish, and a little French just as well. Plus I ski, and so if you go to Switzerland or anywhere in the Alps, it's cool because they speak all those languages. And while you're skiing, you might run into them. So it's kind of fun. But I mean, the bottom line is I like to be able to communicate with people. And, the more language you can learn, the more you can communicate with people and get along with people and have friends from all around the world. But they opened up this German band because my lovely wife, Kara, and I went in and met this German Irish, basically German restaurant owner in Staten Island. And the restaurant was called the Nürnberger Beer House, and it had excellent German food. They really nailed it. It was very high quality, and everybody loved the place. And he was like, "Hey, I'd love to feature on your wife's television show." And so we featured his restaurant on a television show that was centered on film shorts. And his restaurant did really well in that. And we became fast friends because of that, because, helping each other do business. And he said, "Hey, why don't you come and sing an Oktoberfest at my place? You're a singer, you know German, and you know about production. So let's go." And so we learned a bunch of Oktoberfest songs like on the fly, got a bunch of an accordion player together that was a friend of mine that is an excellent pianist, found serendipitously this bass player that was at one of the community churches that we knew him from as being a little kid. And he came on and played bass because he was studying German as he got older, which is another whole story. I'm sort of half explaining it. But when we knew him, he was a little kid. We lost our first bass player that was a friend of the accordion. And then once he grew up and he was in his 20s, we realized that he loved history and he studied German as one of the languages. And then he was like, "Oh, that's right, he's a bass player." And so we actually lost our first bass. And we're like, how are we going to get a German speaking and singing bass player? Where, this doesn't just grow on. And lo and behold, there's this kid, and he had all that stuff in one place. So he plays in the band, and we just go around all of New York City and all the different venues and put up celebrations and let people have fun. So that's my,
that was another example. I was going to say that's another example of what you were talking about. You met somebody back then, and they happened to come in, and the right place and the right time when you needed them again. It's I don't see things like that as accidents. But
no, they're not accidents.
Because I've seen my life be built that way.
If you try to explain to people, most people think I'm going to make a plan, and I'm going to go and I'm going to make my plan happen. But if you only go with what your mind says the plan's going to be, you don't leave any room for serendipity. You don't leave any room for, something in the wind to come help you along, and that's what I see happening in those situations. I mean, he was just a kid. He was like, just 8 or 9-year-old kid. He played bass. But yeah, we would have guessed, later on. Well, I guess no, he wasn't that young. But anyway, the point is that we have that band, and we do that music making for community, because we like to make sure we do something for community, so that everybody can enjoy. For example, I'm doing a gig tonight for Valentine's Day at one of the German restaurants, kind of to just go sing love songs for people,
That's pretty
so
great.
that's
And well,
that's that.
you I would say you have the German thing going, and with the love songs, you're also kind of a crooner, and then you
Yeah.
have
Oh, yeah.
the operatic tenor, amazing operatic tenor voice. So you're like perfect for Valentine situations. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like I started backwards. I gave the community stuff first. Like I'm trained as a professional tenor, and I've been doing a lot of soloing, and I sang the solos for the Messiah this with the orchestra
Oh, I
in
bet that was
Jersey.
incredible.
This yeah, and then I just sang the "Grieve Not the Holy Spirit" by Noble. Sang this the we're going to be singing the solos for Mozart's Requiem coming up here pretty soon as well for orchestra. And we'll be singing in section, like I said, with my son, with Brahms Requiem, um, and so that's like the professional tenor stuff. And I've been doing that since my first solos were with my mom when I was singing like Tona a Sorrento with her community chorus back in Wellington, Ohio, and I sung Nessun Dorma. Actually, one. I was working for a company once, and they had a Christmas party, and I sang Nessun Dorma with a orchestral soundtrack for a talent, like a Christmas talent competition, and I ended up winning. And the CEO gave everybody the cash prize as a bonus when they found out that this was like really big success. Instead of just giving it to me, he gave it to everybody. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah. But so I've been singing operatic stuff, both on stage, on Equity stage. I was Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, so I played Joseph with
I
the.
love that production too.
Oh, it was fantastic, and
I
to
used
be
to
with
listen
all
to
the
that soundtrack all
kids.
the time.
Oh man, that's an integral part of my children's childhood. Is they when I very first met them, because I married into two wonderful children. My wife had a very young first marriage that ended pretty quickly, unfortunately. But we have got wonderful children and wonderful relationships out of it. And still, because of the way that I was raised, we are in absolute communication and good friendship with with their father. And I make sure that everyone is included as family, because the children coming. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 3 and remarried, and my mom married um, a wonderful fella that ended up being her, angel, and our family's angel, and he's my dad, and so because I was trained and saw how powerful love can be with action behind it and principle and intention, and really grow a family out of some brokenness. I just felt like that made sense to me. So I married into a 1.5-year-old boy, Jordan. I mentioned my middle son, and a 3.5-year-old daughter, Emma. And the Joseph soundtrack was playing in their bedroom when they were both sleeping at night when I first met them, and it was like Any Dream Will Do. And that moment just sealed it in. I was like, this is awesome. I can do this. I know what this is. I love this woman, and she loves me, and let's make a family. And that was that. But yeah, Joseph was there. So I auditioned for Joseph because Kara and I were in Cleveland, Ohio, and we were doing the theater scene in Cleveland, which has a multiplex equity theater scene, and they trade on and off with the New York players as they do. Like Miss Saigon will go from New York, and then they'll send some performers to Cleveland, and then they'll do it in Cleveland, and then back and forth, and just so they can get some, just mental health and performance health and trade off things. So we were in the longest running show in Cleveland, Ohio, of Tony and Tina's Wedding by Hay City Productions, and it beat out Jacques Brel Is Alive and Well and Living in Paris. And we actually on the day that it beat them out, their cast actually came in and did Tony and Tina's Wedding with us as a cast, and it was really fun. But it's still the longest running show in Cleveland. I think 562
Wow,
shows or something like that. Yeah.
that is pretty long.
So we did a majority of them, and I auditioned for Joseph
Let me
because
just stop you there before we tell the story, because I want to do this in the second half. So before we tell the story, I thought this would be a great place to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to continue talking about this, and then we're going to show how that emotion plays into what else you do, because there's a whole another side to you that involves building on an audience emotion. And that comes through live events and television and film and all that. And we're going to come back into that, and we'll finish this story right after we take a quick break, really quick, for which is the only way you can take a quick break is really quick. But when we take a break here, we're going to hear from our sponsors and learn more about what's going on at rBeatz, and then we're going to come right back with Andrew, and you don't want to miss the second half of this. It's going to be pretty incredible. So we'll see you in just a few moments.
Welcome back to this week's segment of What's Trending Now on rBeatz Radio, Media, and Streaming Network. Upcoming local, national, and international concerts, starting off with Black Box Theater's The Veggie Games Tour by dubstep DJ Infect on Friday, March 7th. Doors open at 10 p.m. You can get your tickets at blackboxcharlotte.com. The Evening Muse presents Find Your Muse Open Mic Night, featuring artist Timothy Chandler Hicks on Monday, March 3rd. Doors open at 7 p.m. You can get your tickets at theeveningmuse.com. Tosco Music is hosting a music party at the Night Theater, an experience with local, regional, and national acts, sharing a wide variety of music on Saturday, April 12th. Doors open at 7:30 p.m. You can get your tickets at toscomusic.org. This is Annalise Pearl, bringing you all the new details on the latest trending water cooler conversations. Stay on top with the rBeatz app, and rBeatz.com always bring you the best of the best independent, national, and international artists, concerts, and influences on the rBeatz app. Now let's get started with this week's DJ World Beats top trending songs. Spinning now on 25.8 366, our global pop stream, DJ World Beats brings you Any Way I Love It by Carpet Man. Also by Carpet Man, Make It Lower. Too Much to Say by JoJo. And Hollywood Forever by Hollywood Undead. Trending now on rBeatz Radio, our house and EDM stream, we have Viva la Opera by Armin van Buuren and Natalie Joya. Free Your Mind by Tiesto and Lucas and Steve. And More Than a Feeling by Kashmir. Spinning now on We Global Radio, our hip-hop and R&B stream, we have Don't Disturb Me by Uza Freya, Shorty Swing My Way by Offset, and It Is What It Is by Big Sean and Gunna. Closing out on USA Heroes, our classic rock and country station, we have Do You Cry by Ali Venable, and Georgia Ways by Quavo, Luke Bryan, and Teddy Swims. That concludes this week's countdown. Be sure to check in at our social media sensation show, What's Trending Now, and be sure to check out our Backflip Lounge on rbeatsradio.com. Be sure to check in at rBeatzTZ TV on YouTube and rbeats.com. Thanks for watching.
We're very honored to be here today and to form a partnership with Michael and bringing an American Hockey League team to Charlotte. We really feel that this is a huge step forward to the growth of hockey in North Carolina and in the South.
This is my new home.
They score again. Sorla, it's the hat trick. And Elkovich for the empty net. He scores. The longest game in American Hockey League history, and we are in the midst of it. Rebound chance. St. Patrick. They're going to the Calder Cup Finals. The Charlotte Checkers are Calder Cup champions! They are the kings of the American Hockey League, and there's no one left to beat. Lawrence can win the game. Fake shoots!
It's been 590 days since the last hockey game in Charlotte, and the Checkers will don a new affiliate on their sweaters and a familiar face as their new captain.
Nash out front, dangling, shot, he scored! Checkers with it, rebound, Carlson buries it, we're back tomorrow night! On the right wing board, Samoskevich finds some ice shot, he scores! And the Checkers have their first lead of the Queen City Outdoor Classic! Number 124 for number 21, the new franchise record!
Welcome back, and my guest today on the program is Andrew Kay, and we were talking about his performances in New York City and, of course, Cleveland. When we left off, we were talking about Joseph, the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which is one of the productions that I love. So let's continue with that, Andrew.
Sure. Yeah, we so the director of Tony and Tina's was like, hey, I think we have something big that we'd like you to audition for. And she auditioned me, and we got in. And I remember when I did the second callback and then the final, instead of I had this overwhelming urge, instead of like going bigger and bigger and bigger with the tunes and trying to impress, I just kept having this feeling like I should go less and less and more heartwarming. So I remember the last thing I sung was John Denver's "Thank God I'm a Country Boy," and that was the final song.
That would not even be what I picture you for.
It's so fun because that was sort of like the flavor when it came to like being with the kids, because it's a community story, and it's about a family, and there's a massive, they knew that I could sing the close every door and all that kind of stuff, but it also, you had to play the whole character. You had to be the brother and the youngest and all that. So that was pretty cool. But the best part about it is my son, Jordan, and Emma, their absolute favorite soundtrack and a key thing in our lives. This moment came along again without us planning, but with us planning because of what I was able to do, the artistry that was in place, and just the people and the timing. The kids didn't know that I was in Joseph or that I was Joseph. We just were like, Daddy's got to go to work, and I just went to work. And the first time that Jordan figured it out was on the night that he came, and I saw when he realized what it was, and he was like 3.5, 4 at the time. Yeah. So the first time he realized what it was is when he was honest, his eyes, when he saw me and he saw that I was Joseph, it like exploded his head.
That's a great moment.
And it was one of the best moments. Of course, Emma loved it too, but the kids got to come and experience that. And then they get to meet all the kids. And this is at a Jewish community center. So the whole, story was with all the, the real kids that have been growing up with this, and celebrating this Judaic, story. But, it's a story for everybody. But that was what was fun for the kids. But yeah.
Go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish that.
It was just among other roles, and I was doing straight acting and singing. So it was like I went full circle. I was in a Kurt Weill review that went up at the Cleveland Playhouse, and the role that I was playing was the narrator. So I came in as an actor on that one because I had been training with Kara and being in so many straight plays, non-musical plays, that I actually got to the point where I was acting a lot. We were, not just doing musicals, but so on this one, it was great because I went in and I was the actor that came in with 4 opera singers who were doing the actual operas and actual parts. And then I have one part where I sing with them, and they all looked and they're like, "Whoa, that actor can sing," you know? And because usually it's like either one or the other, but it was really fun to be able to just through whatever circumstance and training, and my wife and my family, just work on all those skills and try to, again, be someone who can walk through the walk and understand what everybody's got to do.
And,
So
and
I knew
lead
what the
by
singer had to
example.
do. Yeah, exactly. Lead by example. I knew what the singer had to do. I knew what the opera singer had to go prepare for. I knew what the actor had to do and how they had to approach, and it just helps. It helps with anything that you make and do.
Yeah, and
Um,
and this is something to say for the viewers, because for instance, I have a friend who's a pop artist, and he travels around with one of the cast members from Hamilton, and they just do like a 2-man performance of R&B pop standards, things from the past that they reimagine. It's a very cool show. I saw it at the Blumenthal System here in Charlotte. Um, but to know how that stuff works, you talked a lot about equity performances, and that's not something I have time to cover today. But for the people that are interested in that, they need to look up what that is and understand
yeah.
that, because it's going to be key to them getting involved in anything like that. Let me ask you, uh, how did you get involved in the technical side of this? Because there's a whole nother side. There's this actor and this opera singer, the guy that performs on stage, but you also spend a lot of time. And I've had studio people on here before, and it's almost like cave dwelling to me because I have ADD, and to be able to just sit in there and do what you guys do, it's just incredible. You have to have not only patience, but you just have to love that. But you're this behind the scenes guy too. Um, and one of the terms I've heard used to describe you is a re-recording mixer. So I want you to tell people what that even is. But it involves still understanding the emotion of that live performance you're doing on stage, because you have to bring that to adding sounds to visuals, when it comes to not just live performance, but film and television and even the web. And it's something you're super skilled at. You're probably a Jedi at this point. But tell us a little more about that and how that's played into that.
First, I have to get my lightsaber. I don't know where I put it. uh, so yeah, that is that's again, I will say the first, it all stems in music. Music is an amazing gift that's out there for all of us to hop on and start exploring it. It's great for the mind because it's so mathematical, that it works the mind, and it also settles the mind at the same time because of the spiritual part of it, the beauty part of it, however you want to put that emotional, the pathos part of music on it, whatever word you want to use, however you look at it. That's what's amazing about it. It's left brain and right brain at the same time. So the technical stuff fits right in there like that. When I was younger, I had to become a snare drummer and play. I was playing percussion since 6th grade. So I played all the percussion in high school, and my cousin was going to graduate. And we had a small enough city where, well, actually it was a village where there was one snare drummer, and he was a senior. And then I was the other promising snare drummer coming up as an 8th grader. So I had to join in as an 8th grader into the high school band. And percussion in and of itself is technical. You have to handle a lot of equipment, and you got to get things working. And I think through the style of music, playing drums and trying to make drum and drum pad and synth sounds and hearing a lot of the music that was going on, I took a really big liking to really big sounds and cool sonorities. And most people liked Star Wars back then, so like the sonorities that would happen in space scenes, and that stuff was just so cool. I had to know how they do it. I had to know how they do it. So I would just go to synthesizers and learn all those things and learn all the tech and how to route them, and then hook my drums up to try to get the drum pads to play things. And at first, when all this stuff first started coming around, some of them worked well. Some of them you had to really get in there and mess with. But I put in the time because it was worth getting the outcome, because I was looking for those sounds. So that kind of like was the backbone of a percussionist, is someone who like touches tactile things, trying to get different sounds and working with things and fidgeting with them until you can get the right sounds out of it, and looking for the right sound. And that really is what grew all this. So I continued to do that, studied at percussion. I studied voice and percussion and music business in my undergrad, and just kept learning all the systems. And then when I went into graduate school, I had just come back from an internship with the Disney Studios in Los Angeles, and they had me in the film scoring recording sessions at Todd AO and at Capitol and at Sony. And I met like Jerry Goldsmith was still alive, and he was conducting, this beautiful film score music with mandolin. Legend. He wrote like 170 plus film scores, like an amazing prolific career. And I was went to the Disney internship during my undergrad as a winter term, which didn't have much time, and Disney usually does stuff on semesters. So I asked him, it's like, I'm really interested in this. We only have winter terms. Can you I have my plane ticket, I got my hotel, I got everything. Can you just let me on the back, at the back gate, and we'll figure it out from there. And the music supervisor at the time was like, I don't know what it is about you. There's some spark of something, and you've got stuff to back it up. I see here on your demo. So let's go. Come on, and we'll figure it out. So they did, and we did. And because of that, I wasn't just filing tapes, but I was able to go on to the actual sessions with her and go do the whole thing. So I met like the editor for Batman. I shook hands with Tom Berenger. I met Tim Allen and Wilson, the guy is that his name? The guy behind the fence?
Yeah, Wilson.
In Home Improvement. Yeah. Hugged Pamela Anderson when she was still on there, and got to see some studio recordings of that, and then went to Sony and watched Dan Folliart record music for the Home Improvement soundtrack. And met another guy in Pacific Palisades named John Frizzell, and he was the underwriter for James Newton Howard. And everybody was just gracious for a little bit of time in their life, a little slice, to just teach this kid about what it's like to be a composer for scores and for making soundtracks, and how they got recorded. Because I was, at that point, really interested through what Disney was doing with all their animated features and Alan Menken and all those great soundtracks that were coming out during that time. I just had to know how it all worked. How do you synchronize that film with the music? How do you get the beats to line up, and how do you figure out that with the new computing equipment that was coming out? Because this is like mid to late 90s, getting ready just to where the personal computer could start to render 3D, start to really handle the audio and really get going right before year 2000. So that was an amazing time. And that was where a lot of my tech all started to just gel in, because I wanted to be able to get my musical ideas off in a big way that matched what I was hearing on the Disney tunes, or in the big Star Wars stuff, or in the big movies, and making these sonorities that would help you tell these stories, so that your music wasn't just for music, just to, because, that's a nice piece of music, which is great, but it's so much more impactful when you're trying to affect a moment and it works, or you're creating moments and they're synchronized, and I just got really onto all the aspects of that, to the point that I built with the president of the University of Akron in Ohio a new degree program for them that's a master's in music technology. So I was the guinea pig for them, and I helped them get informed about what Hollywood was doing and what LA was doing at the time, and what needed to be learned and what was coming in the digital age. Sort of similar to what's happening now in the AI age, where I try to be on the forefront of technology to see what we can do in a positive way, to see what is awesome about it. So I ended up writing a bunch of film scores and writing opens for television shows. And once I start doing that kind of stuff, I get hired down by friends that remembered me because they were making commercials, and I ended up writing a piece of music for their commercial. And a lot of this stuff, you need the tech, because in order to do a lot of this stuff by yourself, you need to be able to reach these deadlines, and you needed all your equipment to be working for you so you can reach these deadlines. So once I got recognized for being able to write music for things, and that I could nail the feel and meet the thematic feel with the producers or what they're needing, then people started asking me, "Hey, can you mix that in to the television show? Can you mix the open you just wrote and make that work with the television show? And here's the dialogue, and here's what you do with the dialogue." And then I started mixing that, and then learning the equipment, and then eventually the deliverables, which are the pieces that you need to give to the companies, would become, "Hey, we need a surround sound deliverable." So then we'd get a budget together, and then we'd build rooms. So then I ended up building rooms and routing all the rooms and learning, about Avid Pro Tools and all the studio equipment, how it talks to itself, again, so we could just make these pieces. The technology kept growing, and I kept getting better and better instrumentation, to the point where I went back down to Disney after I had graduated my master's, and gave them some of my demo reel, and went down and visited the casting department. And you can't get in through anything with Disney unless you go to the casting department. At the time, the gal named Sherry Croft was the head casting lady, and she knew everybody and everyone. So like Elton John, when he did the music for, Can You Feel, all the Elton John music for the Disney movies? Yeah, the line. Yeah. He had to go through casting. Like everybody has to go through casting in order to get paid by Disney. So that's just the way they work. So I sent my stuff down there, and she got it to the Disney Institute people, and they were planning the millennium celebration of all of animation that was going to happen in the year 2000. And they hired me after hearing some of my pieces. And he told me which piece hired me, because it was the most John Williams-esque piece that I had written for a Southwestern Bell commercial. And he was like, "That one's the one that sounds great." And it sort of sounds like the Home Improvement scene where the bad guys are slipping down, the ice, and doing the whole thing inside when the paint bucket's coming down and hitting them with this. It's a really big music there. Yeah. So it's very exciting music, orchestral, lots of effects and stuff. So they hired me, and because of the technology, and because of what I had previously learned, and the excitement about what I can't remember if you said it on air with me or right before we started, but this whole idea that one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. There's a whole train. What did you call it? You had a word for it.
Honestly, I can't remember what we said back then.
No,
but it does
it was sort of like
unfold.
one thing leads to another that you don't necessarily plan, but there's synergy that builds up, and then people feel it, and they see what's successful, and then they want to grab that again and see what else they can build on it. And that's what started happening. So they hired me, and because of the technology and because of where what I'd learned thus far, I was able to write 25 pieces of music in 30 days. I basically got up in the morning, ate my Wheaties, and got on the equipment and wrote music for 4 hours. And I had to make a completely orchestrated piece as a variation on Paganini's 24th Caprice. So I did 25 variations on the theme. And then what Disney did is they took every piece of that music, and they had 25 different tables at this event. And this is for all the animators all around the world that wanted to come and celebrate animation and honor Walt and Roy's original, figuring out how to get Mickey onto the screen and all that. And they listened to each piece of music. Each table had one of the pieces of music, and they listened to that, and then they animated a scene all week long and an animation symposium to the piece of music in a Fantasia style. So like Fantasia, the animation was inspired by the music first, and then you animate because of what the music's doing. So you listen to the emotion and the timings of the music, where sometimes animation, you animate and then you pick music for it and put it underneath. It just depends on how you do it. But Disney wanted to celebrate and honor the Fantasia style. So they did that as the Millennium Celebration. And then the kids came down, and Emma and Jordan were down there on golf carts, and they put everybody up at the Disney Institute, which is now Saratoga Springs. And you got a little golf cart, and you can golf cart over there. And it was just this amazing time because when they finished with what they were producing, every night we would work on the animation and the timing and getting that thing made. And then everybody's families would be out at the parks and hopping around and having a fun time. And they'd come back at 5:30, 6. And all the kids would get together in the theater, and they'd watch a Disney animated movie with the people who made the movie and their children. It was amazing. This is just the whole thing. So I get to the end of the whole thing, and the lead animator, Andreas Deja, he animated Scar and Mufasa and King Triton and all the kind of muscular big main Disney characters. He's kind of like Disney's head guy at the time. And they were signing autographs at the end, and he was like, "Andrew, get up here and sit beside me and sign autographs." And I was like, "But you guys are like the brass, And he's like, "Yeah, but you're the composer. They wouldn't even have this if you didn't write the music."
It's true. It is the backbone of it. And how do they find out more about you?
You mean like now, or?
Yeah, because we're running down time, and I want to know how they find out about you and your music, and you as far as what you do with the audio. I want you to give your websites and your social media and that kind of thing, so I can have them follow up.
Absolutely. You can catch everything on soundsbigproductions.com, and it'll show a whole history of all this stuff,
A lot
plus
of stuff.
everything that we've been producing. So you'll see, I've worked with major Steve Buscemi and
F.
Susan
Murray
Sarandon,
Abraham, which I'm pretty jealous of, but
I record them and meet with them, because in post-production you end up recording a lot of the A-listers and people. And I work with everybody, independent artists, indie filmmakers, in the industry, union, non-union. We record, if you do ADR sessions, which is auto dialogue replacement, it's when you need to re-record something that didn't go as smoothly, or maybe something technically is wrong with it when it gets recorded on the set. So then people come back into the studio and they re-record these things. Back to your question, Terry, what a re-recording mixer is.
Well, I'm not sure that we'll have time to cover that. I don't want to cut you off, but I'm going to have that put on. We'll try to get a page on the site, and we'll cover what that is, just because we're running down on time. Because I could talk to you for like 3 hours. There's so much involved. There's so many things we could tell. Right.
It's like scratch. It's like
but we need, as I say, one of those Netflix shows where we can run 3 hours, or make a 3 to 6 hour movie or whatever it is, because there really is so much to cover with you. But they can go to the site, and I'll have more information. They can contact rBeatz. They can contact me. They see it there, in the graphic below me, where you have my Instagram, which is DreammakerTH. My wife says it sounds like King James English, but Dreammaker's the nickname they call me. TH is just my name, Terry Hudson. Even if it looks like Dreammakereth, if that helps you, you remember it, you can contact me through there, and I will reply. And thank you so much, Andrew, for being on with us today. And if you will stick around, I'll say goodbyes after we close out here. And thank you guys for tuning in and watching. Anytime where we can find somebody that helps you learn more about the industry and how you can get into the industry and build your own career, and giving the fans of music, a behind-the-scenes look at what happens in all the music capitals and of the music scenes out there. So thank you for tuning in to Local Music Somewhere. We'll see you again real soon. Tell your friends about rBeatz, and we'll see you next time. Much love.
Yeah, 316. Got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, tight and birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position you can live in if you ask. Throw them things in the air. If you got game, wave like you just don't care. If you got game, playing like you got no fit and you got game.